Hello and welcome to Mac Power Users. My name is Stephen Hackett. I'm joined by my friend and yours, Mr. David Sparks.
Hello, Stephen. How are you today?
I'm good, David. How are you?
Great. This was a real fun episode of prep. I already can tell it's gonna cost me some money. But just be warned going in.
Yeah, this is fun. Between this and menu bars, we've
I know.
since people some money. Don't worry, the next two are guest interviews. You get a respite.
Yes, we'll tone it down a little bit. But this was a fun show. So we've been wanting to do this for a long time. We wanted to do a show on travel gear, and my thoughts on travel gear has evolved. I've thought about it a lot more, and taken a few trips recently. Last year, I had a lot of trips, so got a lot of notes, and we got a lot of good ideas today.
Yeah, yes, this will be fun. A little housekeeping today on More Power Users, which is the longer ad-free version of the show that we do each and every week. We're going to revisit the idea of now pages. It's something we spoke about on a recent feedback episode about using our blogs as sort of replacements for social media. And I've had some evolution in mind and how I'm doing it. So I wanted to touch base on that. You can sign up for More Power Users. It's just $7 a month. Again, longer ad-free versions of the show, but you also get access to a lot of perks at Relay, our parent network. So access to a Discord, some members-only podcasts, which are really great. One of them I was actually editing when you jumped on Zoom. I was like editing it, and then your voice was in there. It was very confusing for a second. Where I interviewed Carrie, our chief advertising officer. A really great episode will be out today. So yeah, we really take membership seriously. If you are a member, thank you for your support. And if you're not, now's a great time to check it out.
All right, so let's talk about travel, and we've got a lot of gear to talk about and ideas. But I think the starting point for a discussion of travel on a show called Mac Power Users is, which Apple gear do you bring with you when you go out of town?
Yeah. It's funny. We put this whole outline together, and then I got on the call, and you were like, "Wait, we never talked about this." Like, it's good.
Yeah.
Because look, there's a lot of Apple gear, right? It's back in the day. Yeah, you just like throw your PowerBook in your bag, but there's a lot of options now. I mean, without a doubt, it's like the iPhone's coming with me anywhere I go, right? Because like with travel, we're going to talk some more about this, I'm sure. Like there's work travel, there's personal travel. Like the iPhone spans both of those things. And maybe if you have a job where you have like a work phone, like, yeah, maybe you leave the work phone at home when you go on a cruise with your family or something. But I don't have that. It's all on one device. And so that's where focus modes come in, like turning off the work stuff. But yeah, the iPhone is a must have.
Yeah, and if you're me, the big point I wanted to make here is if you're someone like me and you are a little fearless about Apple betas, before you go on a trip is not the time to sign up for the latest beta. So try to bring an iPhone with you that is not running beta software. I think that's a important safety tip.
We both have scars from that.
Yeah. But what can I say? I'll get more. For you, dear audience, I will do it.
How many times have we recorded like 2 weeks after WWDC and you're like, well, I'm running the watchOS beta and the phone and the Mac, although you never tell me that because it makes me nervous.
I don't tell you about the Mac, yeah. Well, the thing is about betas is they multiply because
it's true.
You get one on one device and then you need it on the other device to make it work with the thing that's supposed to change the world but doesn't really. Yeah. They multiply.
They do.
The iPad, though, I think is an interesting discussion for travel. I think, my goal, frankly, on most trips is to be able to just bring an iPad. And that is kind of like the thing the iPad is best at, right? It's a small portable device. A lot of times you've got a cellular radio on it if you're traveling domestically. And then you don't need to worry about all the extra gear and like the hassle of a laptop. And fits in your bag. It's your book reader. It's your computer. It's your communication device. I think that's like the perfect world for an iPad. Mm-hmm. But the question always is it enough? And I think for a lot of people, you should consider it enough. Like just try and get by without it. One of the reasons, like I hired somebody at Max Sparky to help me out in the background. And one of the ideas of that was, well, he is in front of a Mac when I am not. So if something really, the wheels really fall off, he could fix it, you know? And then, the iPad becomes just kind of a device to manage things more than actually produce things. If you're going out of town, are you able to, like, if something comes up for work, can you get by with it? And it's a question everybody has to answer, but I think you know, it's worth considering. Like what if you put a VPN on and, we're able to remote back to your Mac at home? Like,
Hmm.
is there a way you can do this without bringing all that extra hardware?
Yeah. Yeah, the iPad Mac line, like that division on a trip, I think is pretty complicated. It is for me as someone who, like you, works for himself, and while I have lots of people helping behind the scenes, like there are some things in my workflow that are just not doable on an iPad, or at least not very easily.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking back like to a trip my wife and I took a couple of years ago to Colorado, just the two of us for our anniversary. And like I took my Mac, but it never left the bag. It was really like a just in case something really blows up and like I need to fix something. Um, but the iPad more for me is like, is there an entertainment role on this trip that it could fill? Right, like reading or video playback, like on a plane or something. And so usually I do travel with an iPad, not for work, but for the entertainment side of things.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Because I could also see you saying, well, I need the Mac, so I don't need the iPad.
Yeah,
But if you
that's
have
true.
media consumption, then the iPad, may be worth the trouble. I just got back from a trip. So my wife had a work thing she had to go to Orlando for. So I went with her, and I'm right in the middle of a webinar for Productivity Field Guide. And I've just got a bunch of things going on.
Yeah.
So this was a trip, but I also spent a lot of time working. And for that one, I brought the MacBook Air, and I was able to do the work. However, just kind of, I knew the show was coming up. I did all the work I needed to with the iPad. I never turned it on, but I had it there as kind of a safety blanket if I
Hmm.
needed it. And it reminded me that the iPad can do a lot of stuff. So, like, if you're doing a lot of writing and research, the iPad probably is good enough. But if you've got special things, like one of the concerns I had was, what if where there's a problem with one of the videos we've got queued up for the labs members? Well, that I would need to get into a Mac to fix. And
Hmm.
so I brought it along. But this is a question we all ask ourselves. But when you go out of town, can you leave one of those two devices home? Another one, and I really learned this from the Max Sparky Labs. A lot of the members bought the Vision Pro who do a lot of work travel. And that's one of the best use cases for it because and generally they don't use it on planes because it's just still too weird. But they put it in their luggage, and then when they get to wherever they're going for work, they've got in their bag an amazing experience to watch a movie. I mean, when you're out and travel, that's the perfect time to want to watch a movie in the Vision Pro because don't have any family there with you to share it with, and it's also a secondary monitor for their laptop, and like it serves a lot of utility roles for people who spend a lot of time in hotel rooms.
Yeah, I think it does. I was in the fall when some relay people were here in Memphis. I forget it. I think it was Jason brought his, and it was like, or Jason or Casey, I forget. And they were like watching sports at night in the hotel. Um,
Yeah,
I am not brave enough to wear it on a plane, although I have friends who have done it. But I think it can be like a supercharged device because it can do the screen extension for the Mac, which has gotten a lot better since the Vision Pro release. Like they've got the widescreen thing now, and
yeah,
um, I would say the strike against the Vision Pro is that it's pretty bulky. Like even if you have it in the smallest bag, like I think Waterfield makes one that's pretty compact. Even then, you've got to kind of commit to it because it's taking up quite a bit of space.
yeah. But I mean, on a business trip, often you don't need that much other stuff, right?
Yeah,
A couple outfits and you're good. So I really get it. That being said, I've never done it. I've never traveled with it
me neither.
because when I travel, it's usually with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking like last year I went to Edinburgh with alone to see my daughters play, but she was with a different group and I had my own room. But I didn't even bring it for then because I figured, well, I'm only how many times I'm going to be here in my life. I don't want to be spending any time in the room. I want to go out
Yeah.
and kind of adventure and pub life and all that stuff while I'm there. So I intentionally left at home because I could see my personality where I'd get back and like stream an episode of something or another
Mm-hmm.
instead of going out and exploring the world.
Same.
But yeah, so to me the big question with the hardware really usually is the iPad Mac divide, and do you bring one or both? And in my case it just depends, but bring some intentionality, and everybody listening can draw their own lines there.
Yeah.
Okay. We've done travel shows in the past, but we focused on tech. This one, we're going a little more holistic. We thought it'd be fun to talk about just the luggage and bags we take too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always fun to talk about bags because there's no such thing as a perfect bag, right? Like
Yeah.
every time we do like a what's in our backpacks thing, I feel like I've got a different situation. But traveling, your needs may be different, right? The backpack I use every day is a smaller, thinner version of my travel backpack. Like the travel backpack's just hanging in the hall closet with some other stuff because I don't need the sort of the storage. But you've got some things here, and you've got the kind of the nerdy travel bag in here, the Peak Design everyday backpack.
Yeah, that's a great backpack. And I used to make fun of my wife because she spent so much time, you know, buying purses. And then I realized that like I watch YouTube videos of backpack reviews like she buys purses. I
Mm-hmm.
I think if I could, I'd have like 10 backpacks. I don't know what's wrong with me, Steven. But either way, I have the Peak Design one. Everybody says that's the one you need, and I really like it. And I actually use that. That is the backpack that I have loaded in the car with a whole bunch of stuff, like part of my like survivalist car mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice, it's really good. I like the way the top latches onto it. I mean, there's all the little decisions on this stuff were well made. It's like they thought about them. And frankly, that's kind of my goal with the stuff I buy is I want to buy things where people were intentional that made it. And the Peak Design certainly fits that bill.
Yeah.
As does the Waterfield stuff. I bought a lot of their stuff too. And they've got kind of a different vibe. But Peak Design is very utilitarian. Waterfield, so I think feels like a little more fancy.
Mm-hmm.
But the two primary ones I use is the Peak Design one, and I also have the Waterfield. And the one I use from Waterfield is the Tech Folio backpack. I like it because it opens very easily, and I carry a lot of tech, So, but it's got a nice pocket on the inside of it, and it's really. I should write it up for Max Market. I don't think I've ever written this thing up. I've been using it like a year, but it's really nice. Did I tell you, Stephen, I'm into rucking now? Have you heard of this rucking?
Oh yeah, well you stick some weights in a bag and walk through the neighborhood.
Yeah, but I have a different version of it. It's
Okay.
called Disney rucking.
There it is.
And, so me and a good friend, Liana, she's been a guest on the show. We started doing this thing. We're trying to do it once a week. We haven't quite got there yet, but you get a morning and you fill your backpack with just a ton of stuff. Get it, nice and heavy. And then we walk like 5 miles through Disney. Like we walk through the whole resort. And then we finish and have like a healthy lunch and maybe, answer email or do a little work remotely and then go home. But I've started doing it, and I've just been using this Waterfield bag or my Peak Design, kind of depending on what I'm loading out that day, as my rucking bag. And usually people like buy very dedicated ones for it and they put weights in it, but I load mine with things like laptops and iPads and books. So that's my low tech rucking. But it's been fun, and it's a good exercise too. You really, in addition to the walking, carrying the weight really helps. But
Yeah.
What's your bag?
My daily is the Bellroy Classic backpack.
Yeah.
In the 16 liter, it's the small one. The website says it'll fit a 13-inch. You can cram a 14-inch MacBook Pro into it, and it's mostly fine. Maybe it is the 20 liter. Don't quote me on that. But it's just a very simple straightforward backpack with some relatively simple storage in it. I have tried the everyday backpack from Peak Design a couple of times, and like I agree with everything you said. It's extremely well thought through, made very well, high quality, but it's too like its opinions about how storage should work in bags doesn't really align with mine. And so the couple of times I've tried it, I've ended up, selling it or returning it or whatever. But the classic backpack from Belvoir is just very simple and straightforward, but it is a little small. And so I picked up actually before going to London for the Relay 10 event last year, the Transit Work Pack, which is basically a bigger version. It's kind of similar version to that bag, but a little more storage. They have a 38-liter version of it, which is really big. So mine is the 20. So I think mine is 16 and 20 liters. But I like the Belvoir bags a lot. Well made. They both come in orange. They call it bronze, but like it's like a burnt orange. Looks pretty good. It's hanging on my shelf over there. And I've been quite happy with the Belvoir bags. Like my daily need for a backpack is not even what yours is. Like if I go to work, at my favorite coffee shop or have a meeting somewhere, like it's a laptop, a charger, maybe an iPad, probably a paper notebook, not a lot of stuff. And so that classic backpack is just simple and small and just enough to kind of get me what I need.
Yeah, I've never bought any Belvoir products. Everybody I know loves them, but I've never tried them.
Yeah, it's great.
How comfortable are the straps? The straps look a little thin to me.
They feel better than they look. That was actually another complaint I had about the Peak Design. I did not like the straps, which I think puts me in a minority. I think a lot of people do like them. They're better than they look, but they're not incredible either.
Yeah. Well, the Peak Design straps are good for me, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
This one works. And I'm definitely a backpack guy.
Same.
I just don't. I rarely wear a one shoulder bag at this point because it's just so much better for me physically.
Oh yeah, you can get wrecked with a heavy shoulder bag.
Yeah, yeah. That being said, we did have a messenger briefcase style bag on our list. The stuff that Waterfield makes for air travel. They've got a bunch of them, and those are good. I've got the Airporter carry-on, and that one was given to me by them years ago, and I used to use it as a lawyer as my briefcase. It's just so good. It just looks good.
That's cool. It does look good. I don't know which one. I have some shoulder bag from them that I really don't use that much.
Yeah.
I've thought about it. Sometimes you need something a little bit nicer than a orange backpack, but generally I'm with you. Even as little as I carry, a shoulder bag is not in the cards for me anymore.
Do you do the roller, like carry on? Do you bring like a rolling bag with you when you go and travel?
I do. If I'm traveling, my ideal is like a carry on and a backpack where I don't have to check anything. Now, if we're traveling for work and like we're recording a show, then I have to use this Pelican case full of sound equipment and I have to check a bag. And I know you have experienced this as well. Getting through airport security with like microphones and cables in your bag, you're gonna get stopped. What is this? What are you doing? But ideally, and especially if I'm not recording, and I've got my wife and I. We have a series of different sizes of away carry-ons. They're like this polycarbonate, so they're tough, nicely made. They are a sponsor from a long, long time ago, but really nice carry-ons. We've been very happy with ours, including the ones like we've taken overseas.
Yeah, us too. And we've just bought a fleet of them over the years. When we need a new one, we just get another away. They have a lifetime warranty. I had one crack on me, and I sent them a picture, and they just sent me a new one. No trouble.
That's cool.
That being said, I recently ordered a new roller, and it's the new Peak Design one. Have you seen this?
Yeah. So they're doing a Kickstarter right now. As of our recording, which is several days before this comes out, they've raised $6.5 million on Kickstarter. What are you doing? Well,
some of it was from me because I ordered one.
Yeah.
And
it looks really nice.
again, it's just it's just the intentionality of you watch the video, you're like, yeah, that, and I'm in, and it's a very strange carry on. It's not like the typical one where it zips down the middle and, you open it up in like two pieces of bread slight on a sandwich, just opening it up. It opens from the top. It's very strange. We'll put a link in, you can go check it out. And I'm sure it's going to be great, but I have ordered a new carry-on and I'm very excited about that, but I'm not going to be getting it for I wasn't willing to pay the extra to get it early. So I'm going to get mine, I think later in the year sometime.
Yeah. Well, follow up with us on that, because I think it's really interesting they're doing this, and I'm sure it's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Peak Design stuff is usually really well done. In fact, I'm kind of in with Peak Design on a lot of my smaller bags too, so it works for me. All right. If you're traveling and you've got a bag, you want to track it. Mac Power users, I think Apple AirTags are really the main point here. I have an AirTag that just stays in because my main roller, my away bag, is of the ones we have in the family. There's one that's got a bunch of Star Wars stickers on it. That one's mine. And in it, I've got my packing cubes and an AirTag. All that stuff just gets put away with the bag. So when I get it out, it's just sitting there waiting for me.
Same. We have AirTags everywhere. Keys, cars, definitely backpacks and carry-ons. And at first I found it a little frustrating. There's no way to attach an AirTag to something, but there's such this huge ecosystem now of things to put AirTags in, to mount to the outside of a bag. A lot of bags now, including my Bellroy, has a hidden AirTag pocket in the backpack. So
nice.
This is becoming very mainstream. And if I open Find My, there's probably 8 or 9 AirTags in there between my wife and I absolutely love them.
Yeah. And I heard from one listener, actually a Labs member, who told me that he uses 2 in his luggage.
Yeah.
This is like a travel warrior. And he's like, yeah, I have one hidden and I have one that they can find. And I thought, wow, that's a little paranoid, but it kind of makes sense too if you travel a lot. I was looking at my away, there's a zipper that gets to the hardware. I was thinking that'd be a pretty good place. You could tape one in there. I don't think people would think to look there.
Yeah.
Although the bad guys probably know,
Yeah.
But we've got a new feature in the AirTag with the airlines.
Yeah. As of iOS 18.2, you can share an item location if it's lost. So say that you lose your carry-on, you can basically share that AirTag information with another person, or if the airline supports it, with the airline themselves. I've had this experience. I was coming back, I think from Macstock, and my bag and I got separated. And so I had to go to the terrible place in the airport basement where all the carry-ons live, right? And it's oh, which blue one is yours, And so this makes a lot of that easier. And it's really cool. I have not flown since this rolled out, but I think it's a great addition to be able to track something down a little bit easier, hopefully, if something gets misplaced.
Yeah, and the rumor is that an AirTag 2 isn't far away. The rumors are that it's going to have extended range, but going to be harder to disable the speaker on. Apparently, some of these bozos are using these things to track people, And so that's a good sign. But either way, I have a flock of AirTags, and it's awesome. The one non-AirTag tracker I'm using, I bought the Chipolo wallet card, I don't know, about 6 months ago, and I really like it. I've actually left my bag once somewhere, and I used the card tracker to find it because I didn't have an AirTag in that bag, and it's great. So it's the size of it's the thickness of about 2.5 credit cards, and it's an AirTag tracker. Their business model is weird. There's no replaceable battery. What you do is you send it in after the battery dies, and they send you a new one, I think at 50% off. So that's their battery program. But I really like it. I know there's others too that make these. That's the only one I have any experience with, though.
Yeah, the Chipolo thing is in our household as well. That's what I put in Mary's wallet. I She usually carries it in her bag, but sometimes she doesn't. And it's like, and an AirTag just wasn't a good fit for like the way her wallet is kind of put together. And so I got one of these things. We've had it a couple years. It's been totally fine. It works basically like an AirTag. Like it shows up in Find My, and Apple I think has done a good job extending that to third parties.
I was thinking if I did a lot of international travel, I think I'd buy another one and put it with my passport. Just like, because I've got my passport and a little wallet. This would fit right in the back of it. You'd never notice it. And then I'd have a tracker on my passport.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You always put a tag on the outside of your luggage, right? Put something like a distinctive looking tag or something so someone who also owns an away doesn't pick up your bag. But those things sometimes get ripped off or torn. And if the bag gets lost, a good idea is to have a card on the inside with all your details on it.
Yes.
Or even if you want to go crazy, put like an NFC sticker or a QR code or something. But I actually think in this case, the analog card is probably the best bet.
I think so too. That's something I've done forever, is have a business card with my information on it, readily available. And the inside and the outside the bag is key, because like to go on YouTube and watch videos of how luggage is handled, right? Like things happen.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think having it safe and sound inside the bag is a good idea, because most people I think are honest and want you to get your stuff back, and so make it easy for them.
Okay, so you're going down the jetway, about to get on your plane, and you've got your roller bag in your backpack, and you get to the end and they say, "Oh, Mr. Hackett, bad news, we're completely out of room.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take that roller from you right now." How hard do you fight back?
I mean, I generally am a rule follower. I've had that happen traveling with the sound equipment, in that hard case. And then I'll be like, "Hey, look, this is expensive audio equipment. I can't do it. I'm sorry." I did have one time where they were like, "No, you have to." And I was like, "Well, let me take some stuff out of it," because you don't want to have microphones in like the unpressurized part of the plane. And so pulled the microphones out, and then I just had like 4 microphones in my lap as I was trying to get in my seat. It was a nightmare. But that is always a bummer when that happens. But usually I'm a rule follower.
There's a friend of mine's a professional saxophone player, and there's actually a law that says that you can't force them to put their instrument in, because a saxophone is so delicate. It's so easy to break it. So he carries a laminated card with the law on it, and he shows it to them and said, "No, you can't take this from me. It's just not possible." But I don't usually fight like you. But I also pack with that in mind. Like I don't like I have friends that say, "Oh, just put the laptop in the roll on. You don't need it, right?" And like, yeah, but what if they take it from me?
Yeah.
Because I don't use a laptop on a plane. I only use an iPad. I haven't opened a laptop on a plane in years. But I don't usually fight it. Recently, I had a trip where I had a very short layover, and they tried to take my bag on the first leg, and I said, "I've got 20 minutes to get to a plane," because the plane was already, my outgoing plane was already late. I had an hour and a half. Now I've got 20 minutes. I'm just not giving it to you.
Yeah.
And she said, "Okay, we'll find a place for it." She didn't find me too hard, but either way, I'm with you. I usually let them take it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll volunteer if I really have nothing important in it, and I've got that lifetime warranty on my away stuff. If it's just a bunch of clothes and I'm going home, and I don't care if it gets lost for a few days, I'll even volunteer on those occasions, because then it's just less for me to wrestle onto the plane.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier that piqued my interest, because I have not gone down this road, but I keep thinking about it, of packing cubes.
Yes, packing cubes are the greatest thing, Stephen. You have to get some. And you have to get compression packing cubes. All right. So there's people listening who get it. They've already heard this, but people who may have not. Packing cubes are exactly what they sound like. They're little cases or bags that you can put your clothes in before you put them in your luggage. And you can get them, and also, they make them on Amazon. Everybody makes packing cubes. But the thing that really changed it for me was compression packing cubes. And Peak Design came out with these several years ago, So it's got like an extra zipper around the end so you can like compress it down. So you can put all your shirts and pants and everything in it, and then you run the second zipper around, and then it just compresses even smaller, and it gets all your clothes into like this really nice compact package. And then when you get to the room, you can unzip it, and it's almost like having a drawer right there because you've removed the compressions, like bringing a drawer with you. And the Peak Design one is very clever because the inside is engineered so it can move up or down, and there's zippers on either side. So you put your nasty, dirty clothes in one side and keep your clean ones in the other side. And when you get back, you just take it to the laundry and you're good. It's just really great. I mean, I for the longest time, I'm like, well, why do I need this? You know, I always pack my clothes fine. And then Peak Design had a sale at some point. I mean, they've been making these things for years. And I said, okay, I'll buy like a couple of them. And I'm like, I love these. I love these so much. And there's a part of me that is very much likes organization. So I guess that's a part of it. But it does allow you to get your stuff in a smaller package in your luggage. And when you put them in your luggage, everything is nice and tidy. I feel like your own neuroses is going to really latch onto this, Stephen.
Okay. All right. I'm going to order
some.
I'm going to order
Just
some.
get some. Yeah. There are other vendors too that make compression ones if you don't want Peak Design. But the Peak ones are the ones that I got.
Okay.
They also have a tech pack that's really good.
Yeah.
A tech pouch. And that works just as well.
Yeah. I use some sort of like ancient Tom Ben tech pouch. I don't even think they sell anymore, but it's just a place to put your cables and your charger. And like the Peak Design one has some internal organization. Mine does not. It's just like two zippers kind of with a thing down the middle, and it just gets thrown into the bottom of my bag. It's actually always in my backpack, even though I don't need everything that's in it all the time. But I find at least, having loose cables is just not something I want to do. But I also don't like backpacks or travel bags that have like too much organization. Like, oh, like put the charger here, and here's where all your pins go, and there's this little zipper for your AirPods or whatever. Like, I'm kind of fine with it just being a little bit more open, and then having a smaller bag for cables or tech stuff that I can pull in and out at will.
Yeah, that's interesting because my tech pack from Waterfield does have all that organization, and I've come to really enjoy it. So we're to each his own. This episode of the Mac Power Users is brought to you by Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/MPU to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using the code MPU. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform designed to help you stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or scaling your business, Squarespace gives you everything you need to claim your domain, showcase your offerings with a professional website, grow your brand, and get paid, all in one place. I started using Squarespace when they first announced, and I've been a fan and customer ever since. What I like about it is how they do all the hard work for me. I'm a geek. I like working on the internet, but I don't want to spend all my time tuning a website. Squarespace does that for me at a very reasonable price. Now, if you use Squarespace, you want to make the most out of Blueprint AI. That's their AI-enhanced website builder that lets you quickly and easily build a site bespoke to your business. Just input some basic information about your industry and goals. Plus, we already know and love Squarespace for their professionally designed and award-winning website templates. However you start, you'll have beautiful design options with no experience required. And they've got SEO baked right in. Nobody wants to build a beautiful website only for 0 people to see it. That's why every Squarespace website is optimized to be indexed with meta descriptions, an auto-generated sitemap, and more, so more people find your site through search engine results. So head over to squarespace.com/MPU for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use that code MPU to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That gets you some money off and lets them know they heard about it here. That URL, one more time, squarespace.com/MPU with the offer code MPU for that 10% off and to show your support for the show. Our thanks to Squarespace for their support of the Mac Power Users and Olive Relay.
Okay, we've talked a lot about luggage and sort of managing that sort of thing, but let's get into some tech accessories that we find useful on trips.
Yeah. Noise canceling headphones. That's the big one.
Yep. Amen.
I historically I got the Bose Quiet Comforts. I
Mhm.
had a pair of those. I rage bought them. I was on a plane and there was a baby next to me just screaming for like that was like 3 hour flight and it was like a layover before the next flight. And I went into that expensive store in the airport and I bought a pair
Oh
of
no.
noise canceling headphones. Like it's like I am not doing this again. And so this is years ago. But
Yeah.
then the thing I always hated about them is they take up so much space, you know.
Mhm.
And then, well, you've got them for the whole trip, and I don't use them except on the plane. And AirPods Pro and AirPods Pro 2 are good enough. And I gave my Bose away to a friend, and all I've used since AirPods Pro came out is AirPods Pro for noise canceling on a flight.
Yeah, AirPods Pro 2 are incredible. In many ways, perhaps the best thing Apple sells right now. Absolutely love mine. I don't do a lot of noise cancellation. I will on a plane, and they're good enough for my needs. I mean, I don't leave home without them. They're always in my bag or my pocket.
Yeah. And here's a pro tip. They make a thing on Amazon. There's a million of them. They're all about $10. I'm going to link one, but this isn't the one you have to buy. It's called an AirPods lanyard. And my fear with the AirPods is that you're going to get on the plane and one of them is going to fall. And then then it's gone. Like it's just gone. It falls on a plane. You're never getting it back. Every time at the time I dropped my Apple Pencil on an airplane while it landed.
Oh, man.
Yeah. The plane was landing. I was putting my iPad back and the Apple Pencil fell in the aisle. And as the plane hit the ground, it was like a race car. It went up like 8 rows. It just like slid up forward 8 rows and it was sitting there and the plane landed. And while the plane's taxiing, all I did was look at it there. Like my eyes would not come off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as the bell rung, I raced up there and got it, got it back. But I mean, like you drop things on a plane like an AirPod, there's a really good chance it's going to fall into a crevice. It's going to roll somewhere. It's just gone. So these lanyards, it's just a rubber, length of, rope that you put around your neck. The good ones have magnets on each side and there's a silicone fit around the base of the AirPod. So you can just hang them around your neck and you can use the magnet to like attach them in the middle. But when I'm on the plane, I always put the AirPods Pro in the lanyards and keep them around my neck, and then I'm good.
Yeah, that's super smart. Especially if you're like me and you have a tendency to nod off on a plane. Like you wake up and your AirPod's gone, and you have no idea when or where. Yeah, that's a good call.
That's the best $10 if you get on flights you can spend in this entire episode.
Good.
It's just like, yeah. In fact, now that I look at it, I'm going to add a couple pair.
Okay.
So I can put like one in different bags and give one to my wife. And they're just cheap enough that you can get extras.
Yep. You have in here portable speakers, which is nothing. I have never traveled with a portable speaker. So I was curious if you have.
Way back in the day, I had a Bluetooth speaker when I was doing a lot of traveling as a lawyer. And I'd get do a trial and I'd be in a hotel for like weeks. And I would, for my music, I don't do that anymore. I mean, the iPhone speaker is good enough. The iPad speaker is good enough. But I just remembered I used to do that. So I put it on the list.
Yeah. Yeah. If I'm listening to something like in a hotel room or something, just like play it on my phone and leave it on the counter. Like they've come a long way.
Yeah.
A real long way.
The other one I have, this is not really tech related, but I have... Because I have glaucoma, the drops I take give me incredibly long eyelashes. Like except for every other part of my body, I could be a supermodel, because I got supermodel eyelashes. But I really like sleep masks and on planes. Not only do they block out the light, they tell the people next to you to leave you alone.
Yeah.
Like you put one of those on, it's like, okay, shields up. sleep mask on, lanyard, AirPods in, and he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But they're hard for me to wear because my eyelashes are too long. And a friend of mine says you got to get a Manta, and I'm like, what is that? And it's like the Cadillac of sleep masks. And I ordered one, and it's like the greatest sleep mask because it puts more distance between your eyeball and the actual mask part.
Okay.
And they're expensive, and they're like, you can get sleep masks so cheap, but this one is like, there will be one person in the audience that will hear this and say, yes, that's what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
So you're welcome.
Wow, they sell like a weighted one and one with Bluetooth, so you can get some white noise in there. They do a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I only got the basic one, but but it's nice.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll put the basic one as the one in the show notes people can check out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I've never tried a sleep mask, but to my wife's chagrin, is like I can fall asleep. I fall asleep very easily. I'm a light sleeper, but I can fall asleep very easily. And sometimes she'll come in our room and like all the lights will be on, and I've been asleep for an hour. You know, like it just doesn't. I can do it. It's fine. But I get it.
I think my wife is like part cat. Like sometimes in the middle of the night, she starts doing stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like that always wakes me up. I keep this thing next to the bed, so I don't just use it on travel. Like if she starts like rumbling around in the evening, I'll put it on, you know, so I've got it on at night too. So yeah, this is important tech to me.
Yeah. iPhone stuff. I mean, we talked earlier, the iPhone's basically essential on travel. And a lot of that comes down to capture of photo or videos, right? You're on a trip someplace beautiful. You may not make it back to. You want to take some pictures and some video. You've talked about this before, but it is so good. The Moft tripod, MOFT.
Yes. I got it last year. I saw a review of it, and I'm like, this looks really great. It's about the size of a wallet, and it turns into a tripod. It uses the MagSafe mount to attach to your phone. You can use it as a mount in the evening to hold your phone up, like, you know, but also it's just a great little tripod that you can keep in your pocket. And as you're going through the day, if you want to take a picture that requires a small tripod, you got it covered with almost no carry weight or space. It was, you know, so for years I used to recommend the Glyph and like one of those little tiny tripods, and like I had all this stuff, but this is even better because it's so small. Like the footprint is really small.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Glyph can attach to an actual tripod. It does more, but this thing for like if you're just traveling, you want to use your iPhone to take pictures. Having this along gives you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Also comes in a bunch of fun colors. And because it uses a magnet, you get standby, which is really cool, where you put your phone horizontally on a MagSafe mount and you get widgets and rich notifications. I use it at my desk all the time. Like at my desk, I have a MagSafe that holds the phone up, and standby is really awesome.
10 colors, no orange. Just saying.
What's up with that?
I have a white one. When I bought it, they only had one color, white. So, but that's okay. It's fine. Another thing I have, I'm not a pop socket guy, you know, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But years ago, I got a magnetic pop socket that attaches to MagSafe, and I keep it in my away. It's like another like travel thing. I never use it except when I'm on the road. But when you're traveling, it's actually kind of nice to have a pop socket you can put on your phone without like. I just didn't like the idea of gluing it on and like having it there always. But this is like magnetic, so you can pop it on or off as needed. And I only really find I need it when I'm traveling, so I keep it in my bag.
Mm-hmm. I do like pop sockets on Kindles. And I recently gave an older Kindle to my sister-in-law, and it had a Batman pop socket on it. And I was just like, here you go. Like, I didn't say anything about the pop socket. It's like, here's this older Kindle Paperwhite for you. I hope she's still using it. I like to think that she is.
What about a car mount? Like, if you're going to go somewhere and rent a car, why not bring your own car mount?
I used to do this. So I used to travel a lot for work, like years before Relay, like back before I was podcasting a long time ago. I would travel a lot for work. In fact, I have a story about that later. And I had a phone mount in my carry-on. But now, like, I haven't rented a car in years that does not have CarPlay. And so what I have swapped this out for is I make sure that I have USB A and C cables that work with my phone. So because when you get in a car, you never know if you're going to get USB A or C. Newer cars
Yeah.
have C. Some cars will have USB C for charging, but still use USB A for CarPlay. And so now we're just make sure that I've got those cables, and it has not bitten me yet. But I used to do this like for years, kept just like a suction cup iPhone mount in my bag.
Rivian update.
Mm-hmm.
I have now put all the pieces I need to mount my phone on my dash in my Rivian list, but I have not ordered them yet.
Okay. Well, I just spent a bunch of money on packing cubes, so maybe you should do that.
Well, I'll tell you that the things that are bugging me on it is on the dash, it gives you like the length of time you need to go 2 miles and turn right, but it doesn't tell you what the street is. And the other thing it doesn't tell you is they've got the thing in CarPlay where it says it's 3 red lights away. You know, I find that kind of useful, and that's not there. So
Me too.
I'm going to send them feedback, but it's like it's close, but I'm not sure. I think I may end up, Marco told me that I'd end up ordering this stuff. And I don't want to because it's got a walnut dash and I don't want to cover it up. But
yeah,
I think that it's probably going to end up happening.
It is cool. The inside of your vehicle is infinitely nicer than mine, but that's fine. Other kind of Apple gear. I mean, we had ideas in here for like portable keyboards, portable monitors.
Well, that's a thing now. Travel monitors are like that has evolved. You can get a cheap one, super thin.
It's like USB-C.
Bag.
Like you don't need anything else. I know our friend and sometimes enemy Casey Liss uses one. I think Federico and John at Mac Stories have played with them. I've never traveled with a portable keyboard. I've traveled with an iPad with a keyboard case, but if I'm taking my laptop, that's all I'll do. The one thing I do if I'm going on a trip where I know I'm going to be using the Mac a lot, say WWDC, I will pack my mouse just because using a trackpad all week for if I'm doing shows or doing a lot of writing or whatever, trackpad is hard on me after a while. And so I will throw my Logitech mouse, the one that I use literally at my desk right here, the MX Master 3S. I will take it with me if I know it's going to be a work heavy trip.
Yeah. Like any type of heavy editing, whether it be videos or documents, you need a mouse for that stuff.
Yeah.
The travel monitor, we actually have one in the house because my wife works from home a lot for her job, but she's a fancy lady and works with a lot of spreadsheets and like reference data. And she doesn't have a desk at home. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And we ended up getting one of those that just hangs off the side of her work laptop. And that's fine. And then it packs away and it's not like around when I'm not.
You should 3D print her a desk.
Yeah.
Or use all that fancy woodworking stuff in your garage.
Yeah, I should just make her one.
Yeah.
But where would we put it? We have the small house. What she does a lot of times is all, because I have like a rolling desk here in the studio. And so we work together. So we just we're coworkers for a day.
Yeah. Mary comes in sometimes. I have another desk in the other room, but also have a couch in here, which is like the best thing I've ever added to my office. And she'll bring her laptop out here sometimes and get some stuff done.
This is another one inspired by Daisy's work is because she deals with confidential data, even at work, they make her put a screen privacy filter on her computer. So people walking by can't see all the Disneyland secrets.
Yeah.
But I thought that would be a good idea for travel. I mean, if you are somebody who works with secure data and you're in an airport or whatever, those things are not expensive anymore either.
I definitely see them. I think every time I fly, it's like someone flying in a suit, right? Is not who I want to be, but usually a ThinkPad or a Dell or an HP, like an IT provided laptop, using one of those things because they're doing secret business things.
What about when we went on this trip to Orlando on the because we park our car in LA, we park it in a garage that drives you to the airport, and there were two guys in there having like serious businessy business talks
Hmm.
in the thing while we're driving in, and I got thinking, I'm so glad I'm not a lawyer anymore. Just listening to those guys talk, I'm just like, I'm ruined. I'm ruined. If this whole thing falls apart, I'm going to have to go like get a job doing French fries or something because
Yeah.
I can't go back to having those conversations. I just can't.
No, I get it.
iPad gear. Now, in the past, when we've done shows like this, we had a whole list of things for the iPad, and I was thinking about it prepping for today's show. I don't think I need any of that stuff anymore. I think get a keyboard case and an Apple Pencil if you're inclined, and you're good.
Yeah. So much of the iPad hardware ecosystem just collapsed the second they had a keyboard with a track, especially the one with the trackpad. Right? It's like Apple's are expensive, but Logitech and other companies make less expensive ones. And if you're using your iPad as a computer, you probably already have it, so it's great.
Kindle. Do you bring a Kindle with you when you travel?
I do, and it is basically always a sort of I want to read on this trip, right? It's like a goal, it's an inspirational item to pack. And then I never read on trips. Yeah. Yeah. Aspirational.
I'm the opposite. Like I read a lot when I travel, but I always load up movies thinking I'll watch them and I never watch them.
Mm-hmm.
But I am in a very weird space on e-readers right now.
Yeah.
I'm cranky with Amazon because they made it impossible to download books anymore. So I've switched my book purchasing to Kobo. We should probably at some point do a show on this stuff, but I don't know if I need an e-reader. I can put my books back on my Kindle device, but I just don't feel inclined to, you know? So I've been loading them into the Apple Books app, which is fine. Still pretty good. And, but then, everybody says, well, you shouldn't read all those electrons at night. It makes it harder to go to sleep. And I often read ebooks before I go to bed. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Am I going to buy a Kobo thing? We've got a guest coming on that's a big fan of the Supernote. So I've got one of those here I'm testing, and you can read books on that. I don't know what I'm going to do though. It's I'm in a weird spot, but I will tell you on my last trip, I didn't bring any Kindle. I just used my iPad and the Books app.
Yeah. I put ebooks as a topic idea on the list. So
yeah, let's do that. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is a lot going on. Kind of rounding some things out here. We got a section here for safety and security, and the first thing you put in here was the Birdie personal alarm.
Yeah.
And I may have heard about this from you, but I bought one and it sits on top of our fridge. And if my wife or daughter go out for a run, I try to get them to take it with them because you pull the plug and it makes a whole bunch of noise.
Hey, go nuts and just buy a second one and give one to your daughter and one to your wife.
Yeah.
I mean, just let them have it on their keychain or whatever. I got them for all my girls, and the like one time when we went through Disneyland security, they took one of my daughter's birdies. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if you pull it, it'll be very disruptive. I'm like, well, then you should throw us out if she does that,
Yeah.
But she's not going to do that. But anyway, they took it. So I immediately ordered another one. I don't know. I'm a paranoid dad. And what it is, I guess we should have said that. It's a little device and you yank on it and it makes a ton of noise. And it's just a great security thing. But so I recommend that when you travel. I have not bought myself one. I guess I should. I mean,
put it in your prepper bag.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like even just like I was thinking when I was in Edinburgh, I was going down all sorts of alleys. I didn't know my way around town. I didn't know what was good and bad parts of town. It wouldn't have been a bad idea to have something like that with me. And you and I both skew a little bit everyday carry. Prepper. Yeah. So this section has more stuff than it needs. Pepper spray is always good if you're checking luggage. You can always have that with you. This whole thing with RFID blocking wallets. Any wallet you buy anymore, or almost any of them, say they have RFID blocking. How much of a problem is that? where people try to yank data off your cards
Yeah.
through your wallet.
This is I will admit, an uninformed opinion because I haven't gone real deep on this, but it's kind of like, I kind of view it as like, I'm not personally targeted that I'm aware of. So like, I don't think there's someone trying to like swipe my stuff as I like pass through the airport. And I also basically only fly domestic. So I'm not flying with my passport in the US. Or
Yeah.
I just have my driver's license just in my wallet in my pocket as I always do. And so I have not really gone down this route. Now I'm sure there are people who have, and may think what I just said is foolish, but it doesn't keep me up at night.
Yeah. I mean, as I understand it, they have to be really close to do that. So I don't know if that's important or not. I had a legal client who was a retired fire chief, and he told me he had a whistle on his keychain. I'm like, why you got the whistle? He's like, always have a whistle, Dave. When there's an earthquake or a fire, we save the people that have whistles. And ever since then, I've carried a whistle.
Yeah.
It just like the way he said it was just like, and with his authority, it's like, yeah, okay, so I need a whistle. But yeah, I keep one when you travel. It doesn't hurt to have one. Like something happens, you want to make some noise. A flashlight. This is the part that I made fun of it for years on this show, and now I've gone down the rabbit hole. I talked about this on our gift guide. I bought last year the Nightcore EDC 27, which is a fancy flashlight. I always said I wouldn't spend $100 on a flashlight, and I did. This thing is awesome. But one of the things it has is it's like got a panic button where you push it and it flashes like a lot of lumens at somebody. Like if you got in a spot where you wanted to get away and you pointed this at them and pushed the button, it would blind them for a little bit. And I thought that was a good, it's again, safety and security. Why not bring it with? So when I travel, I bring it with me and keep it in my pocket.
Yeah. I
wish I'd got the 29. They have the 27. They have like different gradients. I got the 27. The one, like, after you spend this much money, why not spend another like 10 or $15 and get the better one? With this one, you can lock the flashlight. The problem with these really fancy flashlights is if you accidentally trigger them in your pocket, it gets really hot. Like it can even burn your leg hot,
Yeah.
So you've got to kind of disable it when you're carrying it around day to day. And the EDC 29 has a physical slider, which is a lot easier than like hitting the code on the thing. So
yeah.
Wish I'd done that. I think someday when I'm just flush with cash, I'm going to buy that one and then put the other one in the car. I don't know. But
there you go.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's easy to overlook, we're going to talk about travel apps in a minute, but having hard copies of things can be really useful when you're traveling. Obviously you're going to have your ID and whatnot, but things like having a copy of your passport or like having your credit card numbers handy can really save your bacon. And a lot of people do this in kind of the form of an emergency card where you've got it in your bag and you just have some information that's printed that may be handy if you don't have your wallet or you don't have your phone.
Yeah. Like what if you become disabled and you can't talk to somebody in a foreign city? And I think about this. I do this when I travel internationally. I should do it domestically, but I don't. But I put a card and I put my hotel contacts, my contacts. I put my wife's contact information on it. I have a list of all the medications I take. And this stuff is a lot of it's on my phone, but I just feel like, I don't know if some guy in France is going to know how to do that, right? So you just put it in your wallet and you carry it with you when you're traveling. And if something happens to you, presumably they'll look. And then the flip side of that is the digital version of the data is like your passport, your credit cards, all that stuff to me is scanned into one password.
Same.
I mean, one password has fields for them, but I also literally just scan each page of them in the front and the back of the cards. So I've got digital versions of those as well.
Yeah. I want to talk about knives while we're in the everyday carry section.
Okay, since we are doing this.
Yeah, since we're doing this. But first I have a travel knife story. So I mentioned earlier when I used to travel a lot for a job back when I was consulting, when I would carry a car mount with me, I at the time had a pretty nice knife that I liked. And because this was back in the day when I was doing a lot of consulting on Apple's behalf for K through 12 schools. This was like
Yeah.
16, 17, 18 years ago. And we'd go someplace in Texas and roll out like 150 iMacs across 3 schools, right? Like that was my life for
Yeah.
a while. And I went on several trips and I couldn't find the knife that I liked. And I got home probably after my 3rd trip to Dallas and found the knife in the bottom of my carry-on backpack. It's like it had
Oh,
been through
wow.
the airport 6 times. Like, well, I'm glad I'm not a bad guy, you know?
Yeah.
But my current knife that I carry is by Benchmade. It is their bug out knife. A friend of mine recommended it. And what I like about it is you can customize it. So mine, the handle is orange, the hardware is black, and the blade is hardened stainless steel, or not stainless steel, but they're like steel alloy, whatever they use.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And you cannot take it on a plane, but that's okay. It's in my pocket almost every day.
I love that you found a way to talk about your pocket knife, though. I love that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you travel and you need it. Then you stick it in your checked bag and hope that it arrives.
Yeah. I am a huge Leatherman fan.
Me too.
And I have the Arc, which is their kind of nice one. And it's got a really great blade on it. And I stopped carrying my pocket knife because this does that just fine, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got the Wave Plus, which is kind of like the little brother to what you've got.
Yeah. I once, when I was going up to the Bay Area for a case, I got to the airport and realized I had my Leatherman in my pocket. And I went out in front of the airport and I buried it in the planter.
Mm-hmm.
I just stuck it in a planter. Like, if I'm sure the video cameras must have seen me, and I'm surprised I didn't get arrested. But anyway, I put it in the planter. I flew up, made my court appearance, then got back and got it out of the planter and went home.
I was with a friend once who did that going into an NBA game where they got metal detectors. And he ran outside and like put his knife in a planter. I think that happens a lot. Like I bet if you just wandered around the outside of an airport, you could pick up something nice.
Yeah. Yeah. But other stuff I bring with me, this isn't quite tech related, but it's great on trips. And I just went unloaded on this. Hero clips. These are, they're carabiners that like open up into like something wider.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they're so good is like if you put one in your backpack, you can hang your backpack off the edge of a table, or you can hang something off a coat hanger. It's just Hero clips. Just look them up. We've got a link in the notes, and you'll probably want a couple of them.
Yeah.
The other ones that I find really useful are just mini carabiner clips. You can get them off Amazon by the boatload. And I've got a bunch of them. I bring them with me, and I just always find uses for them when I'm traveling. Just little things like that. I bring plastic bags, and that you just find uses for plastic bags,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Recently, I've got into paracord, so I now have a little length of that. And I haven't needed it on trip, but I put it in my bag anyway. Paracord and a few good knots. You can fix a backpack or whatever with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I travel, I have a nice like moisture wicking towel. Turns out Douglas Adams was right. You find all sorts of uses for it. Put it in your backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of complete the blackout with the eyes, I also have earplugs I keep in my thing if I want to.
Yeah.
Don't want to listen to music.
Yeah, I've got some. Actually, they're made from the same. I got them made when I got the molds made for my in-ears for work, and so
nice.
They're in a little case, and they have a lanyard built in, so you can't lose them, and that can be really nice.
I got another cheap recommendation that is like the lanyard, something that's a must buy. It's called the YTT screen cleaner. And a listener sent me this link and said, you need to try this. And I bought it and I love it. It's a little squirt bottle of cleaning juice for your iPad or your phone screen. But it's wrapped in a microfiber. It's like the bottle is wrapped in this microfiber cloth, and then it's got a little plastic insert you drop it into to protect it. And it's $8, and you put it in your bag. And anytime your screen is dirty, you pull it out, you squirt it, and then you rub it with the bottle, in essence, and it's clean. And
that's clever.
Is really well done.
Yeah, that's clever being all in one.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And it's small enough that it doesn't trigger like the liquid limit when you get on an airplane. But
Yeah.
yeah, I got a couple of them, put them in my various bags. I got one on my desk right here, and just find all sorts of use for it, especially if you use your iPad much, because the iPad screen, that gets dirty.
This episode of MPU is brought to you by NetSuite. Nobody knows for sure what the future holds for businesses. If you ask 9 experts, you're going to get 10 different answers. Some say rates will rise or fall, others might say inflation is up or down. The only way business owners can know for sure is if someone invents a crystal ball. Well, until then, over 40,000 companies have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP that brings accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth, giving you visibility and control you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. And when you're suddenly closing your books in days and not weeks, you're spending less time looking backward and more time on what's next. Having a single source of truth in business is huge. In Relay's early days, we had information split 100 different ways, 100 different places, and it was difficult to make concise, clear decisions when the time came. So whether your company's earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning today at netsuite.com/MPU. The guide is free to you at NetSuite, NETSUITE, netsuite.com/MPU.
Okay, so power and networking. When you travel, the big limiting factor often is power. Like, where do I recharge things? I always laugh when I go to Disneyland and I go in the men's room, and there'll be like one guy with his phone plugged into the wall in the bathroom. Like he found the single plug in Disneyland, and he's sitting there. He paid like $100 or whatever to be in there that day. And he's sitting there for an hour in the bathroom charging his phone. I don't know. I got no words for that. But you can solve that problem. There's a bunch of them. Some of them we have talked about in prior episodes, like the gift guides. But the Anchor Power Bank continues to be a must-have for me when I travel. It's their big one, the big boy, and you throw it in the bottom of your bag. And when you're traveling with family, you are the giver of power to your family.
I bought one of these after a previous gift guide episode, and look, you could throw it through a window. Like it is.
Yeah.
It's a
doubles
beast.
as a weapon. Yeah,
it's a beast, but it is so awesome. And yeah, I use it all the time. My wife and her 2 brothers, at the new year every year, they go hiking, and it's like hardcore, like off grid, sleeping on the trail hiking, and. Yeah. I was like, look, I know this is heavy and like, you're carrying a bag, but the 3 of you could go the 2 nights, 3 days and keep your phones charged just with this. And they did. Like it did the whole thing. It's got a screen on it. What's really cool about it, this and some other Anchor products now have like a charging base that you can just leave on the desk. Mine's on a shelf, a bookshelf in my office. And I just sit it down on there. So you don't have like a USB-C cable to plug in. It's kind of like MagSafe. It's got the little pins and it aligns. Yeah. It's really nice.
Yeah. Great. I mean, they're not cheap. No. It's like on sale, you can get them like 130, 140, but I think normally like 180. And I think that's with the base, if memory serves. So this is not a small expense, but boy, does it just solve the problem.
Yeah.
The other, and honestly, almost everything I'm recommending here is Anchor, because I've just come to trust them so much. I guess I should say, I don't get any residual from Amazon or anybody from anything we link. I used to have an Amazon account. They banned me because I put a link in a newsletter once, unknowingly that's bad.
Yeah. I got a warning about it. And, but yes, we don't use Amazon affiliate links in the show notes anymore.
Yeah. So we got in trouble. Whatever, you guys are all good. But but this is stuff we love. And the Anchor Prime Power Bank, which is another one that this is a new one. The one I bought was before this version, but it's a battery with two plugs on that built in, so you just plug into the wall, and then it doubles as a charger when you're in the hotel room. But then when you pull it off the wall, it's a battery. And the new one has the little screen on it that shows you the status. It's nicer than the one I bought, but I'm not going to replace it. But it's just a nice. It's just a nice. That's another kind of variant of this. So this one is your battery on the plane, but then it also, when you get to the hotel room, it's your power supply for your Mac, and that's kind of a nice thing. It doesn't hold as much of a charge as the power bank, but it's still great.
Yeah. And it's cool that it just plugs right in. I mean, I've talked about this on previous guest guides. I didn't put it in here, but I'll mention it now. One thing that I travel with is like a little 8-inch extension cord, or maybe 6-inch or something.
Yeah.
Just because very often in a hotel or something, like you got to plug into like the top of the lamp, and maybe your thing doesn't quite work there, and just gives you that little bit of extra flexibility.
Yeah. And ever noticed how like the plugs in hotel rooms are loose?
Oh yeah. They've been treated real badly over the years.
Yeah, like people have been jamming
out.
Screwdrivers in there or something. I don't know, but like the plugs just fall out. So like, bringing an extension that you can kind of lock in is actually a really good idea. And then my Anchor Battery Triumvirate, the third one is the portable one, the Anchor Mag Go. This is their version of the Apple magnetic battery. It's a little thicker. It's got more charge in it. It's not quite as integrated, but Apple doesn't make theirs anymore. So
I know
this is what you get, and it's good though. It's solid, and I got one and keep it and use it all the time. So you don't need all three of those things, even though I have all three. But choose your poison.
Yeah. I did have some. I don't think it was Anchor, but I had an older version of some sort of like MagSafe battery like this. And they got recalled. I got an email from Amazon like, please don't use this thing. I've not replaced it, so the Mag-Go is going in my shopping cart. It's on sale right now too, which is cool.
Honestly, that's why I buy the Anchor stuff, because it's just like I just feel like, they're not going to do something that's going to cause my hotel room to catch on fire, right? And
and you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to. Be responsible.
Or, in my pocket. Like some of this stuff on Amazon, looks fine, but I just don't know the brand, and I'm not sure I can trust them,
Yep.
There's another one I'm going to put in. It's Anchor has what they call the Power Extend, which kind of solves the hotel plug problem. And I don't own one of these, but in researching the show, I was looking at it, and I'm sorely tempted to buy one.
One reason I like the short little extension cords is that it's very simple. And I use them in my office because I got some stuff on like a battery backup that is like a big wall wart, right? And it like blocks the next plug over. And on a battery backup, like space is at a premium. And so I will use those little like 6-inch or 8-inch little extension cords to manage power bricks at work. And it's very, very helpful.
Yeah, this one's called the Anchor Nano Charging Station. It's a 67-watt charger. It's got a 3-prong plug in it and a 5-foot cord. And then it's got a little like dongly thing on the end. It's got 2 additional 3-prong plugs, 2 USB-A and 2 USB-C, up to 67 watts. And like in a hotel room, this could really save your bacon.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what? I'm just going to order this.
There you go.
I'm going to buy one.
The blue is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Bring it on my next trip. Because on the last trip I went on, I had that problem where the chargers just literally fell out of the wall in the middle of the night because the plugs were so bad.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Have you ever done anything with like travel routers? I know we got some friends who are into this, like Casey Liss, we mentioned earlier. I think Quinn Nelson is also into these. These are small devices you like plug into the network at an Airbnb or a hotel room if you have hotel with Ethernet. And you like have your own little network.
Yeah. If you go back into the Mac Power User Archive, like episode 100-ish, I bought one back then and set one up, and it was cool. That's the reason I put in the outline. I thought, I know we still have listeners that do this, but they've come a long way, since then. And but it is exactly that. You can use it as a repeater. Like if the hotel has bad Wi-Fi, you can repeat their signal, or you can set up your own network. And, you know, the advantage is it's your network, so you kind of control that, and then everybody doesn't have to log into the hotel Wi-Fi. I had one years ago. I do not currently use one. The travel I do doesn't seem to really need it.
Yeah.
And I just, for whatever reason, I don't do it. But I know this is a thing people do, so I wanted to make sure we at least mentioned it.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing I do. I have an Apple Note that I have called Known Good Hotels.
Yeah.
And like if I travel to WBC, it's like there's a couple hotels in the Cupertino area I've stayed at. I like staying someplace with a kitchen, and so I have like notes of like, hey, these hotels have nice kitchens, so I don't have to like remember. And trying to book a hotel for WWDC or an Apple Press thing can be stressful. It's like these are my hotels that I know are good, but I also have on there a little note about how the network is, and
Yeah.
because especially on a work trip, like that might be really important. And
Yeah.
tethering can get you a long way. I have never played with these sort of travel router things, but if you travel a lot, it may be something that is useful to you.
Other kind of weird travel tech is if you are going to another country, getting your own eSIM or mobile data card. That makes sense. I don't think we need to say much more about that.
I've never done it.
Me either, because I'm with AT&T. They've got a reasonable plan when you
Yep.
travel, and I just pay them,
Same.
and then I don't have to monkey around with it. It used to be the other thing people used to do is get those portable hotspots. Where you get like a domestic, like if you're in a foreign country, you get a hotspot from their domestic service, and you just carry it around and hook into that. I'm sure we've got veteran travelers in our audience that do that. That's a thing that you can do. If you've got big experience in that, share it in the notes at talk.macpowerusers.com. But that's a thing. All right. What if you're going out of town and you want to do some photography or video? What do you bring with you?
Yeah, so we mentioned earlier some tripod mounts and those sorts of things. Having a little bit more horsepower behind your iPhone photography can be nice, or even going beyond it. I know moment lenses were very popular for a long time. There were different versions of it. Other companies had them too. Like you get a case or it's a magnetic clip, like the Olo clip. Remember those guys?
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Where you could have different lenses kind of on top of your iPhone. I think these are still popular in some circles, but I have not used one in a long time.
Yeah, me either, because the iPhone got so many lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like the iPhone doesn't have the kind of glass that Moment does. So like if you're really serious about it, I think that's still probably the vendor of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Something that to know is they've changed their mounting system in the last few years. So like if you've got older lenses, they may not work with the modern cases. So just look into it. But I do think Moment is probably the place to go. All that said, I don't bring those anymore.
No.
I mean, I'm shocked at how good the iPhone is for a travel camera. And like the old days where I would bring an SLR with me, I don't even think about that anymore.
Yeah.
Things that I would, like someone say, well, if you want to bring a better camera, what would you bring? Like the Sony has some lower end cameras that are smaller, like pocket cameras that are good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're worth it or not. I did buy the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 video camera, which I use for B-roll in the Max Markey Labs, and I keep threatening to do more Disney vlogging with it. And I think that's superior to the iPhone because, frankly, when you're out and about, you kind of need your phone to get around.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just a dedicated video camera. But that, I think I'm kind of on the edge with needing that. I think most people will just use their phone.
I think we have crossed that threshold now. For years,
Yeah.
we talked about, hey, we're almost there, and honestly, like I've got a Sony ZV-1. I really like it, but most of the time I don't even think about taking it. Like I take the iPhone. I actually took the ZV-1 to a couple of WWDCs because a couple of my Apple history calendars that I did on Kickstarter had photos taken at Apple Park. I was like, okay, that needs to be more than an iPhone because I'm printing it, nice and big. But we have crossed the threshold where for most things, for most people, most of the time, the iPhone is totally fine. We're beyond it being passable, I think.
Yeah, there's a Max Sparky Labs member who is like a serious photographer. Like he's got Leicas and lenses and everything. And he was just telling me that like some of his favorite pictures, one he showed me on his wall, is taken with the iPhone. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's just, it's, even for people who are real serious about it, the iPhone is a player now.
Yeah.
One thing though, I would say is often a problem with an iPhone photography is light sources. And I got a couple Lume Cubes like 6 or 7 years ago, and they're just little. It fits in your pocket, and it's a portable light. You can do the same thing, like have your friend use their phone as a light source, but the Lume Cubes are more powerful, and they're very small. So if you think you want to do something fancy and it's dark out, you may want to pick up a couple of these and carry them in your bag. That's the one thing you can't do right now is like get a light source from
Mm-hmm.
another angle with the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. You've mentioned these before, and I think it's a really good idea, especially if you're
Yeah.
going someplace where you're going to be indoors, like
Yeah.
going to a lot of exhibits or a conference or something. A little extra light could be
Or
useful.
even outside in the dark, like you just have somebody stand out of shot
Mm-hmm.
holding the Lume Cube from the side, and it actually does make it nicer. And they're kind of indestructible. I got them on like Kickstarter a long time ago, but now and there's probably competing devices as well. But just an external source of light.
Yeah.
When you go on travel, do you bring extra storage?
I do if it is a work trip. And
Yeah,
so if we're recording a podcast or doing video, I'll throw in, I've got several of like the Samsung, T5, T7, T9, whatever the current number is, USB bus powered SSDs, really
yeah,
small, really lightweight. You can usually find them on sale on Amazon, and they're fantastic. The only like thing I would say about this is if I were going somewhere where I was taking a lot of photos and I didn't have an internet connection, I would bring a drive just to back up those photos on the trip. Like
yeah,
when my wife and I went to Colorado, I took a lot of photos. Right, we're up in the mountains, we're hiking, we're doing all these things, and the apartment or like the Airbnb we were in, like this apartment had actually shockingly good internet access. And so I was able to import my photos and they synced with iCloud Photo and like got backblazed overnight. And so I had a backup of them. So for me, it's, do I need the storage for a work project, or am I in a situation where backing this data up is difficult, and then I'll just toss one of these in my bag and be done with it.
yeah. And it's funny because this is another thing that's evolved. In the old days, I would always bring a hard drive
Yeah.
on trips, and I would always, like the good dad, make copies of everything, and you always had to make sure you didn't put the drive in the same place you put the computer when you flew home, and like all that stuff. Not necessary anymore. If you
Mm-hmm.
got, iCloud backing up all your photos. When I do bring storage is if I need to do work, I don't, because I don't have my main machine as a laptop. I actually have a little Samsung T7 that I put a bunch of my data on encrypted, like the Max Sparky assets. And so if I go on a trip and something happens even with my little MacBook Air that doesn't have any storage, I've got the main data there. And I also have that stuff in the cloud as well, but you just never know when you go on a trip if you're going to be able to get to the stuff in the cloud. So I have a little drive I bring if I'm going to do work, but that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And SSDs make this so much better. I mean, back in the hard drive days, it's like, oh, do you need a rugged hard drive? Like there are rugged SSDs, like Crucial makes one, but the ruggedness was about the very fragile mechanical spinning drive inside. Like
Yeah.
I'm not worried about damaging a Samsung SSD, right? Like it's going to be in my backpack. It's going to be safe. It's not going to get damaged from being jostled around. And so this is yet another place where the SSD revolution has made things much better. Like I would never take an external hard drive on a trip anymore. Like I would only take solid state.
This episode of the Mac Power Users is brought to you by Google Gemini. Go to gemini.google.com and supercharge your creativity and productivity. I used Gemini for the first time the other day, and the most impressive thing to me was just talking to it. You go live with it, and then it's just like you're having a conversation. You can just talk about your day or have it explain something to you or start brainstorming ideas. I'll give you an example. I pretended I had a job interview coming up and asked it to help me prep for the interview. It immediately started suggesting common questions I might get asked. Then I started talking through my answers out loud and it would give me feedback. And it's all happening in real time, like I'm talking to a career coach. That's just what I tried first, but you can talk to it about anything. And that's the magic of it, how you can have this back and forth and it's all seamless. If you haven't tried it yet, it's definitely worth checking out. You'll see what I mean. And our thanks to Google Gemini for their support of the Mac Power Users and all of Relay.
Okay, travel apps, right? You got your phone, maybe you got an iPad. What are some apps? What are some things that can make travel better?
Starting with your preparation is the Maps applications, Google and Apple Maps. They both have offline downloadable maps. I prefer Apple Maps. I guess I'm just kind of in the bag for Apple. But what I do is I go in and I add favorites for the hotel, any points of interest, and I also put in, if it's domestic, I put in the local Kaiser because I have Kaiser Health, in case something happens. And like restaurants, just whatever it is that I need to be able to access, I add it as favorite to Maps before I leave and then download the maps. And then I know I'm good.
Downloaded maps are huge. Saving favorites is huge. We did a whole episode on Apple Maps a while back now. And I really will create and get rid of favorites in Apple Maps like willy-nilly. Especially if you're driving in a place where you're not familiar or a car you're not familiar with, right? Like it's very easy to have your favorites there and tap them in CarPlay and be ready to go. And the offline access can be huge as well. One thing that I would add to that is, depending on where you travel, like Apple Maps is really good in California and a lot of the US, but you get outside of the US and maybe it's not as good. Or like what I've noticed being in London over the years, Google Maps is really good for some things and Apple Maps is better at others, right? Like either the public transit is better or one or the other. So even if you don't use both, like even if you're a loyalist to one or the other normally, having both on your phone, and I have a separate travel home screen that I enable when traveling that has them both side by side, and having the offline data in both of them, having favorites in both of them, like it can make a lot of sense to use them in conjunction with each other, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah. Currency conversion. Do you have a recommended app or anything for that?
I don't. I basically, if I'm in the UK, which is really the only place I travel internationally, is I just try not to think about it and hope that things are going okay. I don't really, like, I don't convert cash. I don't really go down that road.
My family, we all want to take this trip to Japan. We've been saving for it for like 4 years. It was going to happen this year, but just with life, we couldn't do it this year. Maybe next year. We're kind of hoping for next year. But every time I look at the yen, I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, at least going from the US to the UK, it's like I can do that math in my head,
I don't know. I think 1,000 yen is like $6, but it might be $60. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm going to have to figure something out when we finally go over there, because that's something.
Yeah.
One that you turned me on to is Flighty.
Yes.
And man, that is such a great app. And my subscription just expired. And I don't know if I should renew, because I only have one trip planned this year. So I don't know if it's worth paying for it. But one of the things I love about it is it shows me when you're taking trips, and like I get to follow my friends, but also like when you're on the plane, and I don't know how it does it. It like figures out how long you're going to be, or like I told the war story earlier when I landed and I only had a few minutes to get to my connecting flight.
Yeah.
Like Flighty told me where that was in the airport, so I knew how to run there, and like, it's just like, if you travel at all, man, it's is the winner in terms of plane tracking and
Yeah.
just navigating airports.
Yeah. It's really good. They do have this week by week plan, so you could basically pay for the features you need, like the 1 week you're traveling, because
Yeah, I'll probably do that.
it is
Yeah.
kind of expensive otherwise. But yeah, it's great, and I will use it, and it usually knows things before the airline app. So,
Yeah.
Flighty, if you fly at all, it's worth the time.
Any other flight tracking apps or itinerary? Like, are you a TripIt guy?
I'm not a TripIt guy. I know people are, and a lot of people like want to have everything. Tripsy is another one for iOS, iPad, and Mac, and Tripsy is like very much in the sort of indie app scene, really nice. But I I do my planning in Apple Notes, and
Yeah, me
it's
too.
enough for me. I can have, links to the various things I need. I can share it with anyone I'm traveling with. And critically, unlike some notes apps, Apple Notes is offline, right? It syncs everything to your device. And
Yeah.
TripIt and Tripsy, like they are offline as well, I believe, but I don't need all those features. And so I'm just using Apple Notes.
Yeah. The joke is because my favorite place to go is Hawaii, and my family knows I always want to go back. So now, whenever we fly back from Hawaii, I create a new note for the next trip and share it with them.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get off the plane, they're like, "All right, Dad's ready to go again."
Ready to go.
But it's great. You put I use an Apple Note that's, especially now that you have folding in Apple Notes, it's so much easier. Like all the hotel information is folded under a heading, the flight information is folded under a heading, and you can share it with the whole family or whoever you're working with, and that's good enough for me. One topic I want to talk about is trip discovery. I find I love plants, and I like to garden, but whenever I travel, I'm always admiring trees and plants that I see. But often they're in climates that I couldn't grow here in Southern California, but I still am interested. And there's this great app called Picture This, and it's got a subscription, but it's a great plant identification app. And I've been testing it against the new AI thing that Apple does, and Picture This is safe. It's good, it's much better than what Apple's doing. But I think that's a great travel app if you're interested in that stuff. I know this is, again, probably just for a few members of the audience, but if you like plants, get Picture This. Whenever you travel, you can capture all the plants you see.
Yeah. You also have in here an app called Flush, which you just have to explain this.
Okay, so I like clean bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, and I will go into a bathroom and decide that I don't need to go that bad. But Flush is an app that rates public restrooms.
There you go. There's an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which acts as like a Seinfeld, like redo of the final episode. And George talks about an app that does this. So it's
oh, really?
Yeah.
Me and George Costanza.
Yeah, even George Costanza
has ratings for 200,000 public restrooms across the world. That's all I'm going to say.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about Apple Notes. I think reminders can be in that conversation as well. In particular, in preparation for a trip, sharing reminders lists with a spouse or your travel companions can be very useful. I just use the checklist feature in Apple Notes. In fact, I have a couple of notes that are basically just like travel packing lists. And anytime I realize I don't have something on the list, I just add it as another checklist item, and I can check them off in Apple Notes and then uncheck them at the end of the trip. And it's really become valuable for me over the years.
I put the shortcut in the shortcuts field guide. It's a template packing list for reminders, but I'm using arrays so I can pick topics. Like I'll say, am I going swimming on this trip? And if I click the box, then it gives me all the things I need to go swimming. Or am I going to be doing like serious iPhone photography? And then it reminds me to bring that stuff. Or am I bringing an iPad? And then so I've just made little topics. Is it cold? Is it going to rain? And so I made an array for each one of the main topics. So when I go on a trip, I just click the boxes for the ones that I'm going to need on this trip. And then it generates a packing list for me. And then I share it with the family. That's the
Yeah.
last piece, and reminders lets you do that so easily.
No, that's great.
Something else I wanted to mention that kind of I missed in the outline. When we're talking about maps and directions, if you have an Apple Watch, this is one of the best uses of the Apple Watch is when you're traveling, because it puts the directions on your wrist. And quite often when you're traveling, you're walking, like in cities or whatever. And you don't want to be the obvious tourist walking around looking at your phone about where you turn left and right. And the watch can put it on your wrist. Just look like you're checking the time.
Yeah, it's good. That's a really good tip.
Do you use a VPN app?
I do. And I had experience with this past summer again in London, where I needed to do something. I needed to log into the company's bank account for something. And it was just very unhappy that I was in the UK. So fired a VPN, told it I was in the US, and everything was fine.
Yeah, nice. I think when you travel, you should think about journaling, right?
Agreed.
I mean, you're taking a lot of pictures. Day one is still the weapon of choice for both me and Steven. But Apple does have a journal app, but like that'd be a great place to kick off a journaling habit.
Yes.
Bring it along with you.
Absolutely. One thing I will do too, if I don't have time on a trip, is maybe on the plane ride back, we'll open day one and do some journaling. And day one has this great thing where you have your photo and you like drag it in, and it can set the journal entry to the date, time, and place the photo was taken. And I really like that.
Me too.
And critically to me, Apple Journal is still just on the phone. It's not on the other devices, and it blows my mind.
Well, reminders isn't on Vision Pro. I mean, there's all sorts of things going on over there.
It's true.
I think at one point there was a memo and someone said, really? We're all working on Apple Intelligence for the next year?
Yeah.
I made a list of travel shortcuts. I already talked about my packing list one, but I had some other ones. Some of these I just kind of made up when I was doing the outline. I haven't actually created them, but I thought they'd be fun. Travel mode, turns on VPN, lowers brightness, turns on do not disturb. Easy shortcut. I didn't build it, but why not?
Yeah.
One that I actually build is when I go, it's called Find My Hotel. And all I do is put directions to my hotel address because I know my address for my hotel when I go. So, I just say, find my hotel, and then it gets me direct walking directions to my hotel. And when I'm out, like I used to use this a lot in San Francisco because I just got turned around when we go for these big Apple events. And I just want to be able to get back. And again, drive those directions to my watch so I don't look like a weirdo. And that's good. One that I made up planning the show is panic mode. It locks the phone, sends a location to a trusted contact, and triggers Find My iPhone. I don't know if I'd ever actually stop to do that if I was actually in panic mode. I'd probably just yank the cord on my little alarm and run. Another thing you do is media downloads before travel. This isn't a shortcut, obviously, but do you do that? Like go through your HBO or Netflix and download stuff?
Absolutely. Myself and kids, both. That can be very useful to have done. Even if you're watching something for like once you're there, if you're in a hotel, like the internet's slow, you don't want to wait around for whatever to download.
I do that with the best of intentions, and I never watch them. I just don't, I don't watch stuff on planes, and when I'm on the trip, I just don't find time.
Yeah.
Something I was thinking that would be useful now, ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, I'm sure to an extent, could be really good travel companions. Like I'm standing at this corner in London and there's a statue of Winston Churchill. What's this about? Just ask it like a question like that. And you could probably, I think it would be quite helpful. I mean, this is a theoretical idea to me at this point. I haven't traveled where I would need it, but I think it could be a good travel companion.
Yeah. No, that's good. I think we're ready to go. Are we ready to jump on the plane?
Let's go on a trip.
Okay. It's just one of those things, right? Like where the tech we use every day, like we have to figure out how to adapt it to what we need when we travel. And that's always changing, right? Like I think if we do this episode again in 5 years, we'll have some different stuff on the list.
Yeah, but I think it just gets simpler over time. The the tech element of it has really got easier. All right, so that's it for travel tech. Let us know what you're using over at talk.macpowerusers.com. You can go to relay.fm/MPU for feedback and membership. Thank you to our sponsors today, Squarespace, NetSuite, and Google Gemini. We are the Mac Power Users. If you're a More Power Users subscriber, stick around. We're going to be talking about Now pages and maybe Then pages too. So I'm looking forward to that. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.